and welcome to Football 301. I'm your host, Nate Tice. We are here live from LA, capping off draft weekend. We are going to give some draft grades, some of our favorite classes, least favorite classes, favorite player and team fits, all that good stuff to recap 3 days of a lot. A lot of players, a lot of narratives to recap, but joining me to do that, Matt Harmon. How you doing today, Matt? And Charles McDonald, but we'll start with Matt. How's your weekend been?
Oh, it's been great. This is a historic year for me because this is the wide receiver class where I've ended up charting the most undrafted players.
As you say, through gritted teeth.
Yeah, well, to be fair to myself, I guess, I did more players than ever before, so I guess just numbers wise, like that's going to happen. But also, I knew it was going to happen with Bond, who I don't even think is signed with a team. Which
he's persona non grata.
Good decision. But I knew that was going to happen. Restrepo with the 4.8, I knew that was a risk. But the old guys got banged this year. Andrew Armstrong went undrafted, and Nick Nash. We were just talking about old players. He was at San Jose State in 2019, like pre-COVID guy, and he went undrafted. So. It's okay. It was all. It's more about the friends we made along the way.
Absolutely, Charles. How was your weekend in LA? I know, right? He's like, but I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I'm glad I did in the work. It was good process, right?
For Restrepo to land with Cam Ward, that's cool. For the Dolphins to get a receiver and Andrew Armstrong who actually wants to block.
Yeah,
it all worked out.
Yeah.
The Bond thing could have lived without.
It was due to happen. Yeah. Chuck, how you doing? Surviving LA?
When you turn yourself in for sexual assault a week before the draft, you're probably not going to get drafted.
Right.
Ari, Isaiah Bond. Yeah.
Isaiah Bond, not you.
Yeah. No, not me. I'm talking about Isaiah Bond, the prospect, right?
Yes.
I feel we were skirting around that. No, he turned himself in for sexual assault right before the draft started. I'm doing good. It's been great. It's been great to get away from the New York City weather for a little bit. Been enjoying the sun.
Yeah.
Wish it was a little warmer here, but I'm glad that I have this opportunity to be around you guys and to be here in LA to not think about the Falcons draft.
Yet.
Yeah,
we'll circle back on the Falcons.
Say,
I'm
we
sure.
don't have them
I'm
on the outline.
sure we'll be talking about them today. Charles, how many tacos did you have this weekend as well? I think you really enjoyed the LA food.
I probably had 7 or 8 tacos.
Yeah.
I had 2 this morning outside the laundromat when I was washing some clothes. So I've had to.
That's how long he's been here in LA. Yeah, go to the laundromat, and that is not an exaggeration.
No, I don't. I got one more day.
That's right.
I'm getting out of here today. But no, it was super fun doing the Thursday night show, the Friday night show with you guys and Jason Fitz. I'm glad, or I want to say thank you to everyone that joined us for that. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out on YouTube. It's still out there. It's a lot of fun. But yes, we're going to recap today those draft grades. We're going to start out with our favorites and least favorites. We're going to explain the draft grade. Or Matt can argue against it, I'm sure, with a couple as well, because we haven't really talked that. But also, Charles and I did grades that you can check out on the Yahoo site. I did AFC, Charles did NFC, but we're going to talk about them all today. Matt, how about you kick us off? What was one of your most favorite draft classes from this weekend?
Oh, I think the New England Patriots had a wonderful weekend with the NFL draft. Number one, they take Will Campbell at the 4th overall pick. Even if I maybe liked Armand Membu slightly more, it's not like it's just a little matter of preference. Mm-hmm. Who cares? Still a great pick there, as we said on the live show, even if he ends up becoming an all-pro guard, if that is his eventual landing spot, that you can't argue with that. Again, Brandon Sheriff is the comparison there. Like you just want to take one of the best guards in the league. This is an offensive line that needs help across the board. Travion Henderson with the 6th pick in the 2nd round. Also really like that one because, one, the run game needed a little more pop. Ramondre Stevenson, 3.9 yards per carry last year. I think he can be an okay tandem back, but more importantly, Henderson and what he's going to give from a pass protection standpoint for Drake May and as like an outlet receiver. Oh, this offensive line is not getting fixed in one shot here, okay? So we might need a guy who Drake May can just reliably get the ball to in space. Kyle Williams in the 3rd round. Yeah. Loved that pick. That was like a round later than where I had Williams kind of graded out. So he brings an element of separation and yards after catchability that I don't think the combination of those two things existed in any one player in this receiver room. And then to trade down and get Jared Wilson, the center out of Georgia, as you know, Charles was saying that might have been his favorite Georgia lineman in the draft.
The only one, yeah.
The only one you
The
actually
only one we're bullish on.
I was going to say it nicely, like your favorite one or the only one that he liked. I thought that was a great move. And then, they just made some nice little shots on day 3, get a kicker in the mix. Why not? I really think they did a lot too. They did what I would wanted them to do in this draft, which is they added a lot. The big swings in free agency were on defense. That means you had to really help Drake May out in the draft. I think they successfully did that in this one.
Yeah, this was one of my favorite classes too. I gave them an A on the site. I really liked it from top to bottom. The first pick, Will Campbell. Another name that came up with Will Campbell during the cycle for some teams was Zach Martin, which I was like, okay, that's high. That's some praise. But talking not only just about like, okay, he's a tackle, okay, but maybe he might become a Pro Bowl level guard. That's optimistic about that too. But also just leadership qualities, kind of like changing the locker room culture there or reestablishing that. Henderson as well.
I was gonna say, all 3 of their first picks were like effort guys.
Absolutely. And all these guys, like Henderson's a coach's dream. Kyle Williams is one of my favorite picks in the entire draft because I think his play style, explosive play style down the field, it really matches Drake May and also just what he brings. He's not this big ball winner, but he can play on the outside, which is what they needed more than anything. Someone asked me who he kind of played like, and I was like, smaller Stephon Diggs. And I feel like I'm being lazy there because Diggs is on the roster, but still, Wilson, though, really liked that.
Don't worry, I said it before he was drafted by the Patriots. So
you did say that. Yes, I know. And then Braden Swinson, I really like from LSU. He made my top 75. Heard he butted heads with some coaches during the draft cycle, but you can draft the good guys, the high character guys early, then you can take these swings on day 2. So yeah, top to bottom, really, really like this class. I hate using the term value, especially in a class like this where so many grades were all over the place, but perceived value was really good with where they took everyone, really comfortable. Didn't think they had any reaches, thought they got some really nice players as well. Yeah. But yeah, like the Pats.
It was a good starter draft for like where they are in their journey with Drake May and Mike Vrabel. So I thought they did a good job just to kick things off for them there.
Charles, what was one of your more favorite draft classes?
Arizona Cardinals.
Okay, I'm glad we get to talk about this one. This is fun. Yeah,
that was a fun one because it was I wasn't really thinking about it like when they went through it, but as you look back, they went for so many guys with pedigree.
Yeah,
even just like you look at the schools: Texas, 2 Ohio States, Oregon, Michigan, Ole Miss to start the draft. So I like that they went with Walter Nolan, just trying to get like big time talents that have real potential, potentially be something. Because you have a bunch of guys there who can play a bunch of different roles, but no, we got a potentially 3 technique. Walter Nolan, we got a potential CB1 with Will Johnson if his medical shake out. Jordan Birch was a guy who was highly recruited to Oregon and played all over their defensive line. So I did like this draft just as like we need to get sturdy again. We're going to take some big swings and some talent. And I think that they're probably looking at it like we're middle of the pack right now in terms of all the NFL teams. If we can just get a couple dudes to push us over the top, and I think they took some risks here, but I like them.
They've been punching above their weight with what their roster is, and so now they're going for some big swings. Matt, did you like the Cardinals class?
I did. They were 1 pick away from the all-defense draft, too. They took Hayden Conner, the offensive lineman out of Texas, in the 6th round. By the way, the Falcons were 1 pick away from the all-defense draft. I knew it was like they're going to take one little offensive lineman, so almost got that prediction right. But, yeah, no, I think this is what Arizona needed to do. I wondered if they were going to, like, if their eyes would stray towards the offensive side just because – it was kind of a middling finish for them, even if there were high highs, but then there were low lows. But to me, I think offensively, you just need a few schematic and maybe deployment tweaks for players, but you needed the talent injection on defense. And I love Walter Nolan, especially because they have Calais Campbell on the roster.
Right.
Like, I think Campbell's really going to push to get – Calais is just a great guy, obviously, a longtime veteran. He's coming back to Arizona. Long time veteran. But anyways, just him being able to push Walter Nolan, I think will be pretty big for them. So I like the way you framed it, Charles, like a pedigree draft, and just do what they need to do.
With a lot of B's and B minuses, they were trying to swing for some A's. Nolan was not a guy I linked to the Cardinals, not like from rumors or anything, but just even from like, oh, I like that fit. And now they have see it, I'm like, oh yeah, I
Right.
get why you guys did that, because you're trying to get a top 5 talent in the teens. That's what they're going for. And same with Will Johnson, who everyone agrees is talented. It's just the medicals and then the long speed stuff. But you're taking him in the middle of the second. Yeah, we're okay with whatever little
People
blemishes on
mocked
long
him
speed.
there at 16. You know, like
He's been consistently a top 10, top 12 talent to, I mean, me, Charles, I think
the risk.
just a lot. Really, the concerns are the medicals. Like that's really more than anything.
Also in round 5, they got Denzel Burke from Ohio State,
Right.
who up until this year was viewed as a really talented
Yep.
prospect, and then turned into Mr. DPI this year. He literally had won like every single game,
Yeah.
sometimes multiple every single game. So that's why his stock dropped. But if he can get back to before he was Mr. Grabby, this might be a potential starter for them on the outside.
And that's a guy that 2 years ago was like corner 1 or corner 2 going
Yeah.
into that class. All these Ohio State guys kept coming back. They got a bunch of Ohio State guys. They have Marvin Harrison Jr., Ohio State.
They love
Paris
Ohio
Johnson
State,
Jr.,
yeah.
Ohio State. Their offensive line coach is from Ohio State. A lot of Buckeyes on this Arizona Cardinals roster. But there is something to it, talking about the pedigree stuff. So I'm going to get to one of my more favorite classes on top of the Patriots. And actually, both of these were some of my more favorites, so I'm glad we got to talk about them. But I'm going to go with another NFC West team, the Seattle Seahawks. And this is probably because producer Stone twisted my arm on it, but no. I just really again, they got guys they needed. I know that sounds obvious, but I figured they needed interior offensive line. I figured that they maybe need another receiver, maybe a project quarterback, maybe a tight end. And it was just check, check, check. Gray Zabel, really liked his game. Think he might start out at guard for them. Great, might be their long-term center. I think he is a true difference maker. And also, I didn't like him just personally for every type of offensive fit. It's kind of funny, him and Tyler Booker, kind of the same discussion there, where it's like, I only like you for certain offenses more than others. And Zabel goes to a Kubiak Shanahan offense. I'm like, all right, good. We're good there. But Elijah Arroyo, fun little kind of project. Tight end, like big athlete. I also like who else they have on that tight end roster. Noah Fant, we'll see what happens with him after this year, but AJ Barner can do the dirty work. So Arroyo can be that athlete. They want to be in 2 tight end looks in that same offense. Kind of crazy. We talked about this, but how much pull and sway Kubiak apparently has in that building, because they're all just drafting like guys that fit just for that. So, but Jalen Milroe, I went exactly where I thought he should go. Middle, late third. It's a home run swing. I've seen already the Taysom Hill kind of comparisons come out. Like he's going to be that kind of gadget do-it-all guy, which, yeah, he can do that. Maybe develop into something else. Torrey Horton, one of my favorite players. I had a top 75 grade on him, ends up in the 5th. They even got Damian Martinez, which there has to be other stuff on Damian Martinez for him to last to the 7th round. It was one of those where no matter how high I try to temper my expectations, thinking maybe go round 4. The further he goes, I'm like, okay, there's something I don't know about you. But I just think a really talented player, and he's in the 7th round, runs hard. Ricky White, great special teamer, dirty work guy. I like that in the 7th round. So top to bottom, Nick Manowari is the only one I maybe have a little bit of a question mark on. Maybe a position change to somewhere else, corner or something. But that's the only one that I kind of have I'm squinting at. But I really like this draft class.
Yeah, I think on the Manowari pick, I'll give Mike McDonald a chance.
Right.
I know.
Yeah.
That's,
If any other coach had drafted him, I'd probably be slamming it a lot more. Because I think we talked about it on the show the other day. But man, if you're 6'3", 230, running 4.3, jumping at the gym, why are you not a top 10 pick? Right. And I think that kind of says everything about where his game is right now. But Mike McDonald, he's made more with a lot less than that athletic profile. So we'll give him a chance.
And I think there may be, again, when you go against type of what you have, they have kind of guys that are like above play above, like Julian Love, like plays above. He's more smart, plays above his athleticism. So maybe. Again, these are just the theoretical arguments for it that you get a different type of guy in that room.
Well, and hopefully if you surround him with guys who are smart and instinctive, you can hide him a little bit and just like, hey, just
you
go.
do this.
You do this. You go. But yeah, no, I liked Seattle's draft a lot, and I'm with Charles. My first thought was, okay, yeah, we were all skeptical of Emanwari here, but this was maybe the right spot for him. I know other people have made, like I had Trevor Sikkema on the show, and he made the Kyle Hamilton comparison. I'm not there, but I mean, it's interesting that but to do it in the 2nd round instead of the 1st round,
correct.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's like taking a swing for it. They traded into a lot of those spots to get these guys too. And I'll save my thoughts on Torrey Horton for a later segment.
That's great. All right, now Matt, let's get to another one that was one of your more favorite classes.
Yeah, this is one maybe Charles and I might disagree with, but I liked the Chargers draft. I think they still do need help on the interior. I will acknowledge that right off the bat, the interior of the offensive line. But, I think getting Amari and Hampton where they did was a good move for them because I think he fits the system, and they absolutely just needed more out of that run game. We know they want to be a run-heavy offense. They needed just more. I think they needed more consistency, like down-to-down success rate, which I do think – in time, Hampton can be that guy, but to start, I think getting Najee Harris helps there. But Najee Harris is going to give you 0.0 explosive ability, which is what Hampton is going to provide you. I also think that I liked Hampton's ability as a receiver when I watched him before the combine, and that is an element that Justin Herbert grew to lean on with Austin Eckler as the starting running back there. So I think that's a big, I think it checks the box of what the coaching staff wants. I think checks the box of what the quarterback wants, and ultimately they just needed pop. So the first round pick is nice. Trey Harris is, I couldn't think of a better receiver of what they need, especially because what I love about him going to LA is that they have Mike Williams there. Like, Mike Williams is not for long, right? We know that.
The shadow of Mike Williams.
The shadow of Mike Williams. But while Harris, who is going to need some ramp-up time coming from that Ole Miss offense and the fact that over 40% of his routes were go and curl, he's going to need some time. He's going to need some, development. They have Mike Williams there to kind of bring him along slowly in September so that maybe by October, November, he's ramped up to be a little bit more of what they need come hopefully playoff time. He's like, all right, now he's running more of a full and complete route tree. So I like that pick there. Jamari Caldwell's like the beef they need in the interior. And I also really liked their 5th round wide receiver pick, Keandre Lambert-Smith. Very different type of receiver. He was one of my favorite day 3 guys that I thought he was going to go day 3. I liked other guys who ended up going on day 3 better than him, but he brings some speed. Like, if you look at his route chart, all the deep routes are green, so he'll bring some ability to take the top off, but more of like a move around guy. So I think offensively, they took the right bets here. And then they took a couple guys like R.J. Mickens and then the kid from Florida in the 3rd day of the draft, which is just kind of classic what I think they do.
How many receivers did you chart this year?
26.
26.
And honestly, Ricky White was one that I wish I had gotten to.
Yeah.
There was a few that went
He's a teamer.
All right, that makes you feel a little better. There was a few going off the board in the 4th round. I was like, uh-oh. Dyke, I didn't
I
get
want to talk about a couple later because it's like there's a couple I was like, man, I watched a game or two of that guy, but I was so comfortable saying day 3. Like, I didn't have to worry about you.
I saw Hayden Wink's post that the 2 guys to fade that were, rumored day 2 guys were Alec Aomanor and Jalen Royals, and I agreed with that. I thought those were 4th round players. They ended up going on day 3, but it seemed like because they both have big flaws, but upside, but big flaws. But before those guys were coming off the board, the NFL seemed to just be, as Hayden said, sorting by speed. These guys who just ran fast 40s were like, we'll take those in the 4th round. And there was a couple of them were not on my radar.
Absolutely. What'd you think about this draft class, the Chargers?
It's for me, it's like a team that wants to play a meat and potato style of football, but they got candy for dinner. Is kind of how I look at this draft. I don't know. I think that in a vacuum, Hampton, Chargers, sick player, team that wants to run the football, but a team that can't run the football. And I don't think that this is the player that fixes this for them. The Trey Harris pick, I was a little, I don't know, that I could see him just kind of becoming a ghost in that offense where you're just kind of a sacrificial X. I get a little confused with Harris because I don't think he's actually that fast. And
he didn't time fast.
Yeah, he didn't time fast.
And when you look at the Ole Miss offense, there's so much space that I think people who aren't that fast, the Jalen Hyatt in the Tennessee offense, he's running mid 4.4s, and we're talking he's a deep threat. But when you have that much space, you can become one. But that space is not available in the NFL. So I just get a little bit confused on where they think they are. If they got a little bit overzealous with maybe how they got to the playoffs last year, and they didn't really have much introspection on how they lost that game. Because Amari and Hampton, you add him to that roster, you're still losing 40 to whatever you did in that game because you can't block, and you're too reliant on Justin Herbert. And now you've added a raw receiver with Ladd McConkey. I just don't really see how much they've changed. And I don't think that that's good enough.
I will say on Harris's speed, because I'm with you that I was a little surprised as he was billed as a deep threat that he ran a 4.5, and I'd only worked like 2 games on him before the combine, so I didn't have like a bullish take on how fast he was. But actually, the fact that he's not that fast and he's still a useful deep receiver is kind of what I liked about him, because I think he shows like, and it's flashes, right? So he still needs to develop, but I think he does have some pretty good ability to like actually stack and time these routes so that he can get that little separation as a go route runner, a post route runner. But there's no doubt that he could be a little bit sacrificial to start, but I'm hoping by like year 2 he could be more of a real deal X receiver.
Greg Roman is the guy who's going to develop him. It's a little dicey.
The Ravens had a lot of success developing
receivers. Sure
right?
did.
That
is a fair retort.
49ers before that.
Yeah, they missed on like every single wide receiver pick for like 2 decades.
Yeah,
fair point.
I was pretty harsh on the Chargers grade. I gave him a C, and it was I do like the Hampton pick. It's like one of those. I'm kind of like reiterating what Charles said here, where I like it, but then I thought, okay, here comes the line picks. Here comes the beef. Okay, here comes the beef picks. Okay, wait, no, here comes the. I just kept waiting for him to take offensive line because I thought that was where they should be going in this draft. So it's one of those where it's like, maybe I'm bitter about that, so I'm not knocking him down. But still, the Harris discussion is something I'm trying to figure out too. It's like that God, I wish him and Quentin Johnson could just become one player. But like Johnson's the horizontal guy, Harris is the vertical intermediate guy. But with Harris is that I do think his transition will be smooth. This was my bullish take on it because, all he runs is goes, posts, and curls. In this offense, there's a lot of goes and posts because of all the play action stuff. So, and overs, which I think over routes, which are the kind of like the more, things working across the formation, those are the ones I actually am bullish about with Harris because of his catching range and everything. So kind of in between you guys, Caldwell, I think Tierra Tart was a great stopgap guy for him, still is. But they're trying to build up the spine of the defense because it's just how they want to play. So it's ones like I understand what they're trying to do, just ended up not really liking some of the other spots where I thought they should fill out. I did like Gadsden too from Syracuse, the tight end. Fun little project T tight end, kind of like a hybrid receiver tight end that can get on day 3. Get a little more speed in the offense.
It felt a year early for them, this draft.
This felt like the cherry on top draft as opposed to I think they should have been still.
Dog, you got your butt kicked the last time we saw you. That game was not remotely competitive.
Right.
But I think a big part of that is they didn't have any explosive players outside of one guy.
And they still can't block.
Well, we'll see about that.
Still like Hampton a lot. He was still running back 2 for me. All right, now moving on. What was your next class that you like, Charles?
Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
This is the one lucid part of Jerry's brain that he still got, man. the draft day, he still got it.
That's because he sticks to his board.
Yeah.
He just go BPA.
He just sticks to the consensus board. Just Google that thing.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, it's funny because they actually really just let the draft fall to them and just work it how they work it. Tyler Booker pick, I don't know if I saw it coming, but it was interesting. And we've seen Jerry and the Cowboys, they got to have first-round picks up front. That's just what they do. So they've spent...
they got 3 dudes named Tyler.
I know. All first-round picks.
All first-round picks.
When I was working on the grades yesterday, I was like, Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, Tyler Booker. I was
like, one of them has to be something like Taylor or something.
I was like, am I right on this?
Yeah.
They're all Tyler. But, dude, this is a big-ass offensive line, man. And now I think they've talked a little bit about Tyler Smith potentially playing left tackle.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens with that because I do think if you look at the Terrence Steele contract, you'll see 5 for $88. Man, there's nothing in there. No. So if they want to move, I think
they could have gotten out of it after this year.
They could have gotten out of it.
Yeah.
They could have gotten out of it basically the year after they signed him.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at that, it gives you some flexibility because if you're going to Tyler Smith left tackle, Guyton's going to right tackle, maybe that fits him a little bit better. But you've added so much pedigree to this offense, and I really hope that Guyton can figure out a left tackle because Tyler Smith, Tyler Booker, Cooper Beebe, interior. I would not want to be a linebacker in front of those guys because mean, nasty, big, physical. Then you get Donovan Izaraku in the second round. Savon Revel Jr. in the third round. Those are 2 guys that could end up being starters. And you talk about on the show, if you already have a Micah Parsons, adding someone like Donovan is perfect because he's going to get a lot of cleanup sacks, a lot of effort sacks, and he does have athleticism to improve, on that timeline. So, like a Harold Landry level pass rusher next to Micah Parsons is a lot of fun. With a CB1 potential in Revel, if he can get healthy and stay on the track he's supposed to. I just thought this was another good draft that's going to keep the Cowboys relevant. Maybe not what they needed to get all the way over the top, but, when you're picking top 12, you got a lot of problems, but I think this was a good just first step to get them back to being the team they want to be.
Yeah. Matt, what'd you think of the Cowboys class?
I liked it. I think it's going to be framed a lot about what they didn't do,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate because I think what they did do, especially in the first 3 rounds, is really nice. But I think a lot of Cowboys fans are coming out of it like, where's the wide receiver help? We only took a running back.
Just
in the
one more
5th
receiver.
You guys said
round.
Matthew
Jada-
Golden. You guys said
right.
McMillan.
What about Matthew
What?
Golden? Yeah, which I mean, the Matthew Golden thing is pretty funny. That
Yeah.
was just such a popular
Yeah.
mock, and he like went literally 12 spots later.
I think the
than
Cowboys
12.
pick was in first like 30 seconds. Like,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
obviously
yeah.
they
Sprinted,
no
they
hesitation. They're
sprinted
like,
there, and I mean, shout out to Jane Slater who said like the morning of the draft, Booker was one of the guys
Yep.
they were on, and yeah, it was not something that I saw coming either, Charles. But I like the first 3 picks, but again, it's going to be framed a lot in like what they didn't do. Jaden Blue, the running back in the 5th round, definitely an explosive
he's
player.
fun.
He's fun, and like somebody's got to run behind that
Yeah.
big ass
Yeah.
offensive line. I don't think it's going to be Miles Sanders or Javonte Williams, so he's certainly somebody to keep an eye on. And just the receiver question, they didn't take anybody there. I joked like, who's going to send the "you up" text first? Amari Cooper to the Cowboys, or the Cowboys to Amari Cooper? I know that relationship did not end well, but desperate times, sometimes you send that "you up" text. I feel like that might be something they need to consider. But otherwise, I think this is a great draft, and I wouldn't worry too much about what they didn't do. I'd focus on what they did do.
Yeah, I like this class too. And we brought up the Clayton Adams point on the show too.
yeah.
And it's like that. So Booker makes even more sense with Schottenheimer's offense. Clayton Adams, new OC/run game. I don't think he got the title run game corner, but he's in charge of the run game. But Booker, all that beef, everything you guys mentioned. I actually really like Blue. Like him and Achane for the Dolphins are similar, very speedy, but they do the running back things well as far as like vision and tempo. He's just $188,
Right,
$190.
right,
He just and he has
right.
fumble issues, but he's gonna hit some home runs this year because he has some real vision behind this beefy offensive line. People aren't gonna be able to see him.
Listen, if they can scam Devon Achane fantasy production in Miami's offense with a light offensive line,
Yeah.
they can do it in this offense with those big boys. I think.
Savon Ravel, I thought I would have been comfortable with him in the top 30. And
Yeah.
I understand the concerns with some of the medical stuff, smaller scope, but he's got so much ability. Really like that. Especially looking at their corner room. So yeah, like the Cowboys draft class as well. I'll give you my last favorite one. Oh, actually, we had a question from Chase Daniel Plainview. Great name. Matt.
The Chase Daniel?
His name is Daniel Plainview, which I also like. I drink your milkshake. So how is, did I ask a question for you? How is Amari Hampton in pass pro?
Oh, was the running back pass pro expert, let me tell you. I think he's pretty good. Like, he's good.
Yeah.
I think he's pretty good. He's not quite in the level of like Travion Henderson, but I mean, he gives you a lot of effort, a lot of pop. I think he can work on a couple of like the attack methods of it, but otherwise I think he's got a pretty good punch, and that's something that's going to be critical for, again, Herbert relied pretty well on, and I know Austin Eckler took a lot of pride in his pass protection ability despite being a smaller guy. So I think, again, that's something Herbert really counts on. So that's going to, and I think Najee Harris is like a pass protector. So that's going to get him on the field pretty early.
Warren was always better than him in Pittsburgh.
100%.
No, I think he's above board. Already shows that he's good enough and he has size. And so I think
Just a little work and development, normal
the
stuff.
fact, if you're adequate coming in, that's a high baseline. It's very rare a guy is actually good like Henderson is. So,
Right.
All right, I'll get to my last one that I like, draft class I like. That is the Las Vegas Raiders. All right, something about this class, man. All right, Ashton Genty, I figured it makes a lot more sense because of who they have. Pete Carroll, we talked about it a lot on our show. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun for the offense. And then even just how they moved on, like Darian Porter, the corner, was one of those. I know Charles is a favorite of yours, but he makes a lot of sense in the Pete Carroll defense. Like that, similarities to Richard Sherman, narratively, size-wise. He loves these big, long corners that they can work with, and toolsy. Also, awesome special teamer. And then I think maybe the double dip they took at tackle is what's firing me up more than anything. Because I think in the moment it was fun, like going like, well, they go project tackle, they might go this guy, and they end up taking two of the like four guys I was thinking of, Caleb Rogers and then Charles Grant. Both of them are the same archetype.
Yep.
Big dancing bears that are raw, working on technique stuff, maybe some strength stuff to add as well, but both are just very good athletes. And those are the swings you take, and might as well take two of them. So I like that with some of the moves they made to get those picks as well. And then even at the tail end of the draft, Tommy Millott from Montana State is just a fun player.
Right.
just a fun weapon. So Chip Kelly, most coaches I'd be like, all right, getting these gadgety tweener guys. And I always want to say Jack Besh. Jack Bosch, Jack Beck, but from TCU, getting these kind of tweeners for Chip Kelly as well, like work. Like he actually can make the most of these guys that are hybrid type players, the Jordan Matthews of the world. So I like it here for the Raiders. So yeah, I thought this was a great draft class for the Raiders. I ended up giving them a B+, but one of my favorites. What did you guys think though?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say anything nice. Well, I'll say something nice about Fitz's team now that he's not here. Yeah, I think the Raiders did a really good job in the draft. Yeah, Ashton Genty, right? I mean, you can argue, like, all right, is it the right value to take a running back 6 when you got all these other needs? But then they did the smart thing and kept trading back and acquiring more picks 4 on the second day to fill some of those other needs. And look, if you're going to take Jack Besh in the second round, I'm going to give you an A freaking plus, baby. No, I mean, I think he's going to catch 80 passes in this offense in year 1. He's going to be super productive. He's exactly what they need. And yeah, I love some of the 2 offensive linemen back to back. That was like the cherry on top.
It was.
Yeah.
Get ready to learn mesh, buddy.
Oh, hell yeah.
He's going to be a monster on mesh.
I mean, all 3 of these guys, Myers, Bowers, and Gino's the right quarterback to distribute the ball like with timing, touch, and accuracy.
They call it the golden triangle, the black triangle. They're black and silver triangle. Charles, what did you think of the Raiders one? This cap us off.
It was solid. You know, I was a little concerned with the Genty pick at first because it felt like a luxury pick that maybe they weren't ready for. But I think they did a good job to at least get some prospects in there that have a chance to develop on the offensive line. Because, you know, sometimes you take guys on the offensive line that exist, but there's no like real developmental outcome for them to be something. But I think with those guys they drafted, they have a chance to actually be starters.
The baseline's not bad. They're not just pure projects. It's more developmental as opposed to project. I think maybe that's the best way to put it. All right. Well, those were our favorite classes. The YouTube chat's favorite class was the Patriots, taking home 43% of the vote. So, hey, a little consensus there. Way to go there. Yeah, Patriots did a great job. Now, we're going to go to the flip side. We're going to go to some of our least favorite draft classes. Matt, you get the bat lead off on the dark side.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say the Vikings were not one of my favorites, which is a little unfair because they have like 5 picks. So
I know.
But Donovan Jackson I thought was okay where they took him in the first round. I think you guys are pretty high on Jackson. I think he's good. Looks like a good guard. I think they are definitely clearly sending a signal. They want to run the ball a lot better than they did last year. And I think they've also, with the 2 guys they brought in from the Colts, Ryan Kelly and Will Fries, like they've got some size in there. They want to run more power stuff. So I didn't have too big of a problem with that. I thought Ty Felton in the 3rd round, which I know it's like almost a 4th round pick. Who cares? But I thought that was rich and honestly felt a little like luxury-ish.
And also, I don't know, maybe I just have a vision of what their offense is. It was like, I didn't think you guys need that.
Yeah.
I think he's basically like...
How many targets does he get?
Like 40, maybe? Honestly, I was talking about this with James Coe yesterday. I was like, he feels, and we mentioned this on the live show a little bit, he feels like at best, like an upgrade on Brandon Powell, who's been like a little pet favorite of this coaching tree. So I guess,
Jalen
but
Naylor,
right. Naylor is a guy who, I mean, some people really love his route running. I won't sit here and pretend I've studied Jalen Naylor in depth.
He's just unreliable, like as far as some of the stuff. But yeah,
right. But some people love the separation ability for him, which I think Ty Felton shows you a little bit of that too. So again, maybe that's the long-term replacement for Jalen Naylor, but I don't know. I just didn't think they really needed a 3rd receiver, and that was really their one last pick to make an impact. And I still think they need things on defense. They need a couple of toys on that side of the ball. I mean, even the guys that they brought in on the interior, Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, like those guys are. It's a good idea. I like the idea of it, but they're older players and are not coming off their best seasons, right? So like, I just. Again, it's hard to slam them too much. They didn't have that many picks, but the Felton thing I thought was just maybe a little bit misguided.
Yeah, I think because I almost put the Vikings here, but I was just like, just wasn't the juice to squeeze. But Donovan Jackson was a good pick.
It was. I really.
And I also think they're looking at last year and they're seeing some of the injuries they had. Donovan Jackson did play as left tackle last year.
That's
after
a good point.
Josh Simmons got hurt, so I do think the versatility there makes sense, especially with some of the injuries. And then, hey, this draft is being graded on last year because they traded basically all this draft to get McCarthy and Turner. So we'll see. Yeah. But a bunch of 5th-round picks, I hope so.
Yeah, right. I did like the Jackson pick, but I believe you gave him a C, right, Charles? Like overall, and that's kind of how it is. It's like if they maybe had one more day 2 pick, that was like okay, this is, and that it's a weird answer, but I agree with it. Like I kind of was underwhelmed, but then you look at it and you're like, Maybe it's just because that third round pick wasn't what I thought they needed.
I know that it's easy
that
to
took
say
the air
this
out of the sails.
in hindsight, but definitely there were a couple trade down spots in the first round. They were a team I really thought. It's easier to say that without knowing if there was a dance partner. But two teams did trade down in the first round. I thought they would have been a good one to get out of there too.
Do you like Jackson a lot?
Yeah, Jackson's a nice pick.
Jackson's a nice pick. We all agree that.
And they beat like the interior rush, which happened on the second.
And it seemed like right after them, everyone was like, "Oh, that's the guy we wanted," because then that's the next two teams moved back as well. All right, Charles, what was one of your least favorite draft classes?
Falcons.
Yeah, hanging curve.
Take the layup.
Hanging curve. Oh, that just went 470.
I mean, look, they spent a future first round pick to take someone at 26, like. That
edge player,
an edge player at 26. But I just think even if you're trading a first round pick to get in at the bottom of the first round, that's crazy. It's like there's just not enough value there. Like you're spending 2 picks, you're spending basically 2 first round picks on what is almost a second round pick, which is ridiculous.
Going into a season with a new quarterback, which we're optimistic about. But you just
he's going to be Mahomes. That's what they think.
They're never picking high again.
They think they did Aaron Rodgers and Pat Mahomes last year. So we'll see. Not even close. Not close yet. Still got to wait.
50-50 on that one.
Still got a ways to go. Still got a ways to go on that one. But they draft Jalen Walker, James Pierce. The Jalen Walker pick was fine.
Yeah.
James Pierce trade up was crazy. Yep. Although I do think like the range was okay for him. Late first round, early second round. I thought that was fine.
It was the process.
The process to get there was abysmal.
Yeah.
And then you add 2 safeties in the draft, which I was cool with the Xavier Watts trade up. But at some point, I'm waiting. Where's the defensive tackle?
Yeah.
Where is the defensive tackle? We need one so badly. Because you cut Grady Jarrett. You probably could have kept him, honestly, if you cut David Onyemata, but they really like David Onyemata for whatever reason, even though whatever diminished form Grady Jarrett is a lot better than where David Onyemata is right now. You re-signed Taquan Graham, who was a former 5th-round pick a few years ago. You needed someone, and they're just so light up front. They're so light up front, and I think, like, I kind of view this like the Chargers draft. You needed a meat and potatoes draft. And you ate candy for dinner.
Yeah.
Like you have 2 edge rushers who are sub 250. Xavier Watts, who is a rangy safety, maybe not most athletically gifted guy, but to trade up for him, dip into more picks for next year, and then you add Billy Bowman. Like you already had Jesse Bates and even Watts. Like how necessary was the Billy Bowman pick when you needed a defensive tackle? I don't know. I see people getting excited, but they're going to give up like 200 rushing yards a game.
Oh my God, that's what that was the thing.
You can't even get the third down.
Yes, you need sacks. We all make jokes. Ever since John Abraham hasn't been there, the one Vic Beasley year, and then it was like, okay, now you got some speed rushers, but at what cost? Like at what cost? And as teams are getting bigger on the O line and everyone's pounding. And we talked about look at their division.
And their division is so tough.
They're going to get mauled.
Especially Tampa Bay and Carolina. I do think New Orleans can have a pretty good run game.
Yeah.
Too. It's just that stuff.
I just don't get what they're looking at with this roster when they make these decisions. I'm like, no fear, really, of looking, like you said, in the division. Tampa Bay's got one of the best offensive line in football. The Saints just drafted Kevin Banks, and they always have a sturdy guys up front. The Panthers, we talked about their offensive line last year.
Panthers had a great draft, too.
You did nothing.
I do like the Panthers.
You did nothing to protect yourself this year, and I think that's crazy because obviously Terry's in the hot seat with how many picks he traded.
Yeah. Josh Kendall from The Athletic kind of spelled it out. He was like, it seems like they weren't expecting Jalen Walker to be there. They took him, and we were all in agreement on draft night. We were like,
That's
good.
Nice.
Good job. That makes sense. Good. And then they're like, but we really like James Pierce.
See,
we really like him. Oh, okay. Let's go get him.
The Falcons, I said this to you guys when we were walking back to the hotel on maybe it was Thursday night, I think. The Falcons, now that they have like Raheem Morris in there and Zach Robinson as offensive coordinator, they pitched themselves all last year as like, no, we're a smart, thoughtful Rams organization, but then they still got Terry Fontenot out in there behaving like the Saints.
He's
like
clueless, dude. He's clueless.
It's crazy, and like they're the epitome of a team that drives me nuts. That all year long, GMs are like, we got to acquire draft picks. We love having draft picks, and then on draft day, it's like, oh yeah, just take this one. I gotta have this guy. I gotta have this guy. They get like so hyper focused, and I feel like they did that multiple times.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, I'm going with one of mine. Charles gave that a C- for the draft grade, the lowest one in that division, just like we said. And we had polls for this. Is Mr. Verts overreacting about the Falcons draft? And the two answers, yes, the trade was fine, which was 7%, and no, it was bad, which got 93%. So we are in agreement.
Thank
about
you,
that one.
chat.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're not too harsh about this.
Next
I
year,
agree.
when I'm sitting here pouting because the Falcons have traded the 10th overall pick to the Rams, remember this poll.
And the Rams are taking, like Garrett Nussmeier or something like that for their succession plan. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going with my least favorite one. And this did feel harsh, but like it's the Cincinnati Bengals. I gave them a C, and it's not totally what they went after. It's just I struggle with the timeline of the players they selected and the timeline I thought that they were on. They went for some kind of what I would call developmental toolsy guys at spots that they need players. Not saying that they did not address their needs, which was pass rush, defensive line, the spine of their defense, and offensive guard. But Shamar Stewart, if it hits, it hits. But it's not. If Trey Hendrickson's there, maybe like this a little better. We have to guarantee that he's still back. But he is a project. He really is to even just get to be what we think he could possibly be. They took him at 17. He felt more comfortable for a team for me that's like already has a good defense. All right, now we just take a real splurge pick here, as opposed to like we need dudes. Yeah. All right, let's get the project that has 4.5 career sacks in college. That's just a little scary for me. Same with Dylan Fairchild. Like the player. This is another one of those Georgia interior linemen, a guard, former wrestler and everything. But for the Bengals, not so much because he needs more development and more polish. He's kind of all over the place. If you can hone it in, you really see his wrestling background, and I mean that as a compliment and derogatory, is because he wrestles with guys and torques them. And it's like, no, you're a good enough athlete. You don't have to do that. In the NFL, you can't torque guys. They're going to call it.
Right.
So, that's another guy that if it's the Eagles taking him, oh, yeah. Jeff Stoutland, chill out.
Right.
And I know that's not fair, but you kind of have to be self-aware of what you have and what you are. So those picks, they address the linebacker spots in Demetrius Knight, Barrett Carter. I just maybe wasn't as high on both of those guys. And so, yes, you got more bodies at the position. They need them. You built through the spine. It's just one of those where I just was a little underwhelmed. I feel like they did try to check the boxes, but how they did it was weird to me. But am I a little harsh here, or do you guys agree?
It's a very volatile draft.
Yeah. If it hits, don't get me wrong. There is upside here. But
there's a lot of upside. There's a lot of downside, too.
But yes.
Yeah.
It's pure upside.
You are existing in space after this draft.
Yeah.
Because the first 3 picks, I think Stewart, Knight, Fairchild, they're all ideas right now.
Yeah.
And I think for a team that is trying to get back into the Super Bowl race, maybe these are the upside bets they felt like they need to take, but something a little bit more sure. And I know it's the NFL draft. Nothing's actually sure.
Right.
But,
it's
Shamar
bets.
Stewart, 4 sacks in college. Demetrius Knight, that was a project linebacker to me. I was kind of surprised they went in the second round. And also Dylan Fairchild, that's another project offensive tackle or offensive lineman for the Bengals. So I don't think they got sturdy enough when you're still kind of playing like one of those old Big 12 teams, right?
Yeah.
We're going to go out and score 1 million points. We're going to give up 1 million points. And I feel like they're still in the same exact boat.
You guys play craps, and the odds are best bet is the odds beyond the pass line. It felt like they bet a lot of yos and hard ways, like hard 6, hard 8. It's like, okay, yeah, those hit sometimes, but I wouldn't really want to be betting my Joe Burrow money on that.
Right.
Matt, what did you think of the Bengals draft?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way that you guys did. It was funny that there was an idea that they were going to be one of those teams that had to go all defense, right, just because of the narrative around their team. The thing is, though, they did take a couple of stabs at the interior offensive line. They took Jalen Rivers, who was like a left tackle, left guard later on, too, which they had to do because their interior stinks. That's a big problem. They also took a running back in the 6th round, Taj
Which
Brooks.
I actually like that. I actually like that pick
and this
a
was
lot.
on my radar, too. They needed to take a back at some point.
Yeah.
So that was another thing, too, is they didn't have that many picks, and they had a lot of needs. So it was kind of hard for them to come out of this draft feeling like, all right, we got enough guys in here to fix the defense, especially if they're developmental. And then, okay, well, we got to have some guys on the option on the interior, but you got kind of a guy who played left tackle and left guard in college in Jalen Rivers, and if he's a guard, he's like a tall-ass guard, of course. That's their thing. But then the Fairchild pick is tough because he's a developmental guy as well.
All right, Matt, what was another draft class that you were not particularly fond of?
I'm not all that jazzed up about the Dolphins draft for a couple of reasons, and I think like the Kenneth Grant pick is okay. I don't hate the Kenneth Grant pick.
I came around on it.
Yeah, it's fine, but I don't think he's like just a clear-cut, obvious projection as we just drop him in immediately and he's an above average or like even an advantage as a run defender. I think there's a chance like there needs to be some seasoning and some growth there, which. Okay, I think what they're fixated on the fact that they lost Christian Wilkins and they felt not having him last year, which you felt not having him last year because you have such a dearth of good cheap players on this roster, and that wasn't then that compounds the fact they had to trade up for I'm not even gonna try to say his name, but the Arizona guard in the second. Thank you, the Arizona guard in the second round, which they had to do because we can't miss the offensive guard run, which we had to do because we didn't take offensive line in the first round.
Right.
Like you should have. In my opinion, it would have been better to reach and start the run as opposed to come back, like have to give assets up to come back on the run because you don't have that many picks to begin with. You don't, especially on the second day. So you end up only making a second round pick in the guard there, which again, fine, you needed him, but I think that might have been a little bit rich from where he was projected to go. And they took a running back, which of course they took a freaking running back. Like the one place that they do
against
have
type running
I was going to say, I will give them credit that they took
type.
a guy who ran a 4.6. Like, okay, because I was expecting just taking another fast running back. And then they, probably lit a pick on fire with Quinn Ewers. So, I mean, it just, to me, the real damning thing was the process of taking Grant, missing the offensive line run, and then having to come back up when you need cheap players because you got these expensive vets who are probably past their prime. I was skeptical of what the Dolphins were coming into this draft. I remain, and maybe I'm even more skeptical now coming out of it.
Charles, have you figured out what the Dolphins are yet?
They're trying to be tough.
Right. That's what this felt like.
They're in the mirror like puffing their chest out.
I'm tough.
I'm
guy.
big.
I'm a tough guy.
I'm strong. I have Kenneth Grant.
Have you hung out with people from South Florida?
Yeah.
Love you guys. 305.
Yeah. It was okay to me. I think when you look back at their draft, they clearly felt like they need to get tougher.
Yeah.
So you draft Kenneth Grant, Jordan Phillips, Savino, yeah, and then Ollie Gordon. That's 4 picks. We got to get a lot tougher than we were last year. I don't know how I feel about where they got them. I do think they have like an okay haul of players, but the Kenneth Grant pick at 13 was a little surprising, even though I do like him as a player. Just don't know if they got enough juice here to actually get where they want to go. But got to give a shout out Dante Trader Jr., another Sterling alum of McDonald School, pride of Baltimore County, Maryland, baby.
There we go. That's something. The Ollie Gordon thing is just I don't want to slam him for a 6th round running back, but it just at some point like okay, you need players to work, and if he hits, okay, then Jalen Wright probably didn't work from last year, and that's the thing. Like by the way, guys,
did they move up for Wright?
I think
yes,
yes,
they
did.
future third.
Yeah. And that's another thing. Why don't you have? I wonder where that 3rd rounder went. Oh wait, it went to the running back that we took last year. Who I don't know. Like we'll see. They barely used. And again, it's just like look across the country where you came from in San Francisco.
Yeah.
They keep just like wow, we got to take a running back, right? So and just that has landed them in problems. It's landed this team in similar problems. And oh by the way, they haven't been to any Super Bowls lately, which the 49ers can at least say they have.
Well, Grant I actually ended up liking in this front, and it was like okay, we didn't picture him with you guys, but I can see what you're trying to do here. That front might be awesome. If everyone's healthy, which is the if
how long
with the
have we been
Miami
saying
Dolphins.
that?
If spelled IPH. But no, and then I'll just call him Jonah from Arizona. It's that he's a good athlete. He's big. He played tackle. Still, but again, it's one of these where it's like he needs work.
Yeah.
And I do not trust the Dolphins to develop these guys. So I gave him a B- overall because I understand those 2 picks. And I actually ended up liking the Gordon pick just because it's against type. You guys have gone speed. You guys suck in short yardage. All right, maybe we get a guy that can get those short yards, even if I wasn't super high on him. All right, Charles, Jaws from the chat said, figured Ewers would have gone higher or come out a year earlier. This is probably where he should have gone.
Yeah. Now he should have gone back to school and got some of the NIL money.
Yeah, right. And also, it's telling that Texas was like, they made a run with him. And they're like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
Okay, see ya.
I do think the Quinn Ewers pick is interesting just from like a future tracking perspective. It's like, bro, he had an offer from Miami. to go get a lot more money than
But
he's
who
been
took
making.
it? Carson Beck,
right?
who did the good advice.
Yes, but he's like Carson Beck's been making a lot more money than Quinn Ewers is this year. And I do wonder if there's going to be if this is like an inflection point. Like, do you just go back to school and get some NIL cash and like set yourself up for more practical life afterwards, or do you chase a dream and get drafted in the 7th round for a team who's never going to play you?
You need money to fund those insurance agencies. So I know. All right, Charles, what was another draft class that you were not fond of?
The 49ers. I thought they started off so well. The Michael Williams pick, loved it. Perfect what you needed. You need to get stronger. You need to get more physical against the run, right? Because that's part of where they've fallen off. They have not been as stout as they used to be. You go get Alfred Collins in the 2nd round. That was a little rich, but I understand the thought process, right?
Yep.
Another big guy. We're going to try and defend the run. Then they did their 3rd round thing that they do, which is like,
third round thing. That's the Kyle round,
yes,
it feels like.
Yes, where
3rd to 4th, always.
you go out and you get beef the first 2 picks. And then you draft 2 of the smallest defenders in the draft in the 3rd round with Nick Martin, a linebacker from Oklahoma State, and then Upton Stout, a cornerback from Western Kentucky. These were 2 guys we had on the all-juice team. We got 7th round projections for them.
Stout was the first guy drafted that I was like, I have no notes on this guy.
Yes, he's 5'8", 180-pound corner. Nick Martin at his his playing weight is probably like 5'10", 215. You are adding so much stress for the guys you just drafted right before this, to the point where like you could negate them if these are guys that are going to play early for you, which as top 100 picks they are slated to play early. So. It made me almost like what they did early less, because now you're like they tainted it because Michael Williams and Alfred Collins, like, they're going to play big roles in this defense as rookies based on the draft status, based on needs for the 49ers. And now you are adding a lot of stress to their jobs by adding players who are going to get just demolished by NFL players once they get going. So that was just a little bit bizarre to me. I actually did like the CJ West pick, round 4, but
I did like that one too.
Those round 3 picks really tainted this draft for me.
Yeah, I loved how they started, the ideas of them. Collins wasn't my favorite player in the world, but I get where they took him, what they're getting, why they are taking him as well. Michael Williams, though, I'll talk more about that draft pick in a little bit. But I really like that one. But I'm with you guys. They did their thing.
Yes.
they did the 49ers thing. And sometimes they're some of the best day 3 drafters. Like, so some of these day 3 guys are more live for them than others. And I think they have to be, too, because there's so much roster turnover with the 49ers. They are truly revamping this whole roster. And have to add this, Adam Schefter comes out, Malik Mustafa, their safety. Oh, yeah, he has a torn ACL.
Yeah, where was that?
What?
So he scored like 4 months ago.
What? At the end of the season?
Yeah, I guess. Like, no one has leaked that at all. No one said he's
crazy.
hurt.
Yeah. Like literally the draft ends and we find that out. That's
yeah, and I thought it was like an old tweet that someone was retweeting, and I'm like, and I was like, no, that was posted a minute ago.
In case you missed it. Oh, yeah, we all missed it.
Yeah. So also have to mention that. So not the greatest weekend maybe for San Francisco. Lou from the chat said, I love the beef up front the 49ers got and literally nothing else. It was a weird draft class for them.
Yeah.
That's
pretty much.
Yeah. Too long, didn't read right there.
Sounds about right.
I'm going to go with one of my least favorite draft classes, and this might be more of my own little biases coming in here, is that the Denver Broncos, I ended up giving them a C+. Understand what they did. I just liked other players at the spots they took them. Barron in the first round came around on this. Maybe it was just I was so predisposed. They're taking a running back there.
Yeah.
Maybe a tight end, but those guys went, or maybe even a receiver if that was there. But they go with Barron. Okay, make the strength of strength. I think that DB room is going to be awesome. That whole defense is going to be so much fun. Already one of my favorites in the league, and they just added Barron and added Dre Greenlaw. Speaking of 49ers, Hufanga and Greenlaw. And I just think that was kind of a weakness for them, was targets to the slot. And so, okay, let's just get maybe the best corner trio in the league now. And he's versatile, yada, yada. I really like that pick. Okay, starting as I would say that was an A-. All right, we devolve from there. Because the other guys they took, I figured they would take a running back. I figured they would take a running back early. Maybe it's just I'm not high on R.J. Harvey, and I'm not. And I said this on the show. He was kind of the bottom of my kind of day 2 tier. But I just thought that they had other options there that make sense. Maybe even wait a little bit longer. But again, they had to make kind of a splash at that position. Harvey is solid. He's a plenty fine player. I just liked others better. So again, it's not the worst pick. It's just my own preference. And then same with Pat Bryant. That was another one where I thought, again, you mentioned on the show, oh yeah, of course Sean Payton takes this guy.
Yeah.
Just a big receiver. And I get that. And I get that there's not a ton of big receivers in that point of the draft. Just felt rich because I just thought there's other better options there. Maybe with that they could have added to their receiver room. So again, and same with Savion Jones. That I just thought that there's maybe other guys, maybe just a tad rich. Don't hate any of these particular, it's just that I preferred other guys at these spots. So that's how I ended up with the Broncos. Am I being a little too harsh on them, Matt?
Well, I mean, every fantasy player is going to hope you're wrong about the RJ Harvey.
He's going to be productive.
Yeah, he's going to get so much steam that it actually makes me a little nervous, like how high he's going to fly and if he can actually be a full-time back. Because it's funny you mentioned like I think you said this on the draft show that he has all these great broken tackle numbers because he seeks out contact, which is exactly what Javonte Williams did.
Yes.
And he's replacing Javonte Williams. Now he was replacing a diminished version of it. But it all feels like a Sean Payton heat check because there was he in his post-draft presser basically said like, I went into it in love with Genty, but realizing we probably weren't going to like get him, so I had to fall in love with another back. I'm kind of paraphrasing here, and he fell in love with RJ Harvey, so they took him probably a round and a half ahead of where he was going to go. And Pat Bryant, man, like it's I want to hold out hope for him because it's very Sean Payton coded wide receiver, but he offers you absolutely nothing down the field. Like I charted 3 games for him, 27.8% success rate on the 9 route. That is a horrible
on the 9?
On the 9 route, and he runs a 4.6. So I mean, like it makes sense.
We say compliments sometimes. Oh, it's not a 50-50 ball. It's 75-25.
Yeah,
he's the flip side. It's a 25-75.
Yeah. So no separation there. So but basically like they're hoping from a route chart perspective, there's some good signs here that he can be a zone beater, and I comped him to Tim Patrick. Yeah. But that's basically the role they had Devon Vele playing last year, and that's like
that's why he was like
really? I hate it where it's like, well, you're kind of like you're screwing one of your young players here. You
already found cheap talent, but let's
get a better version.
Yeah, a better cheap talent. Yeah. I know, and it's not a huge upgrade, so we'll see it as much for that. James from the chat says you don't love the punter pick. I'm actually okay drafting those 6th, 7th round.
Punters are real.
And punters are really.
Kickers are not,
but punters are really good now too. All these Aussies coming in the league.
This is funny.
All right, we're going to wrap up the show with some superlatives real quick. Charles, I want you to start. Favorite pick from day 3?
Marcus and Bow, Giants. Yeah. They needed an offensive line so badly, and I was sitting there. I was like, dude, you got to take. He was the last one that has real starter upside. I think that was on the board. So for them to get him at round 5, I think
the 18th pick in round 5.
That was really surprising. He fell that far.
Even though we were higher on him, the league still like by who I talked to, and then looking at guys like Dane Brugger, who they had like the 50s and 60s. So it wasn't like
some guys just fall.
Yeah, that's just how it goes.
It's a weird draft. But it's so weird because I feel weird about this draft. I like a lot of what they did, except the big thing to go trade up and get Jackson Dart. But and Bow, for a team that desperately needed offensive line help, this is a good pick for them.
Yeah, I actually really like their draft. The Giants. This is 2 years in a row. I like their draft. If you just ignore the big move for Jackson Dart,
seems about the state. Like this, look the state of the Giants. If you ignore the important, if you ignore quarterback, there's some cool stuff here.
All the in between stuff. No, I like Mbow a lot. I love this pick in the 5th round. I thought he would probably go in the 4th, realistically, as things were falling. Think he'll end up as a guard. Love his technique and everything. Strength was probably the big blemish with him, and I think everyone was kind of in agreement with that. And then also, I think he had some medical stuff. And then I, again, haven't got that confirmed on anything, but that might have been the other reason he fell. I really like that pick. That was kind of my one honorable mention, so I'm glad you mentioned it. Matt, your favorite pick from day 3?
Yeah, I'll play the hits here. I'll say receiver Torrey Horton was my favorite pick of day 3 because, like, there was always a risk he was going to fall because he's coming off of an injury. Although, Nate, you were the one who kind of put me on him, and you said that the fact that he ran that 40 and worked out was pretty impressive. But he's coming off of what is basically. Do we even know what the knee injury was? Because I've only said it's
ACL.
I see when I've read about it, it's like just knee injury, but I think it might be ACL. Either way, he was a top 10 receiver in this class for me. He was in the same tier of prospects Texas guys like Jack Besh, Kyle Williams, Trey Harris, all of whom went on the second day. And again, my rankings aren't everything. He's coming off an injury, but as much as I liked, I liked what Isaac Tesla was as an idea. They traded up so much to get him. Pat Bryant, went ahead of him. Savion Williams, like that's crazy to me. Like Dyke from the Titans, like Dante Thornton with the Raiders, Ty Felton who we talked about, like all these, and Arian Smith from Georgia, like all these
ideas.
Like even Jalen Lane, like all these guys went ahead of Torrey Horton. I think he could outproduce like 10 of these dudes. I just think he's a really good player, and he's exactly what they needed in this wide receiver room. Like they needed somebody with speed, the ability to beat man coverage, good release moves off the line of scrimmage. Like maybe he's too skinny to be a real full-time X receiver, but they have MVS to do the sacrificial stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if he makes an early impact, because I think he's pretty pro ready. And ultimately, again, I think long term he fills the exact type of receiver they need. I loved this pick by Seattle that they went and got him there.
Same. Yeah. I mean, Seahawks took him, and then they took Damian Martinez in the 7th. And it's like, okay, I'm being realistic. Martinez went in the 7th, so I'm going to understand. Sometimes the league tells you things. But Horton, he's a baller. He's just a football player.
So good.
I was scared because he plays fast and he can play downfield. His ball catching skills on the sideline are exceptional. I really liked, even for a long-legged guy, like on underneath routes, he can get north, which is usually sometimes those guys take too many stutters. And so, I was like, okay, he's probably like
so smooth.
He must be like a 4 or 5 guy or something. And then he goes and runs a low 4.4 and
coming off an injury
with good hands, and everyone says he's a good teammate and everything. So I thought this was maybe just fell. Other guys were, like you said, sorting by speed. Maybe he's coming off the leg injury, but really like this player as well. So totally agree with you on this one. But I'll go with my favorite picks from round 3. Those are also 2 I agree with completely. Going with Braden Swinson to the Patriots, just continuing how much I really like that draft class. Thought he could have gone earlier, hearing that he butted heads with coaches, which probably Vrabel actually probably liked, because he's kind of a masochist. So he probably was all about it. But no, I just really like that pick. Think he's a potential starter. Also makes sense for who they have on their front, because of just they have some burly types. They're trying to get a little bit speedier as well. He's a tight end killer. Like the player a lot. And then talk about day 3 running backs, Devin Neal, who I had in my top 75, and I'm standing on it. I think Devin Neal is a great runner. Goes in the 6th round to the Saints. Perfect compliment to Alvin Kamara. He is everything that everybody wanted Keon Miller to be. Where this guy is actually, is it Keon?
Kendre.
Kendre Miller to be. Neal, man, I just really liked him. I think just an efficient running back. I kind of compared him somewhere in between a Devin Singletary / David Montgomery running style. Doesn't have that long speed, but I love his vision, love his balance. I think he just does everything well. And I just really like these backs. Yes, I pump him up higher than most people do. I thought realistically he'd maybe be there in the 4th. I thought that was kind of his sweet spot, especially with this class. Also, learned a lesson. Hey, if it's a deep running back class, everyone's going to wait till day 3. And I should have realized that. I was like, they're going to all go before round 3. But if a bunch of guys are graded round 3, everyone's going to wait until round 4 to take them all.
But sometimes they turn into Chris Carson, 7th rounder from that 2017 class that this was compared to. So,
or Devin. But Neal, Kamara sometimes battles injuries too. I think Neal's going to outplay his draft spot easily, because I think he's just a good football player. Yeah, he's probably always going to be a 50-50 split guy with somebody else, but this is a great spot to be a 50-50 split and go up to the Falcons, stopping the run again for 2 games.
You can go win Rookie of the Year in those 2 games right there.
Get it. Where's my fantasy waiver wire column? Let's write. That's Andy's thing. Get that to Barron's.
Just whoever goes. That's the automatic check. The chat is also saying it's DK.
I know. I did know that, because I read it in Shout Out to Dane Brugler. I did read it in the Beast, and I was like, okay.
How did you pronounce it the first time?
Dyke. We spelled Dike.
Just stopping some water.
Yeah, what do you want me to do?
All right, so now
get a little ethnic, Matt. That's what I want you to do.
I'm trying. Talk to my wife. All she's done so far is give me a chain.
He needed an accent above it. All right, now we're gonna go to our favorite player team fits. Matt, why don't you start us off?
Caleb Johnson, Pittsburgh Steelers.
Love this.
Great fit. It's the exact. when I was talking about where he needed to land, I've been talking about like literally since the combine. Like, let's get this guy to the Pittsburgh Steelers. This makes so much sense. He's a natural zone runner. They ran outside zone they just ran zone concepts overall at the second highest rate. I love this depth chart, by the way. We had this on the fantasy show earlier. It's just Aaron Rodgers, quarterback, potentially is just beautiful. I think he's just gonna smash. I think he's just gonna smash in this offense. Like, it would not surprise me if he's the second most productive rookie this year behind Ashton Genty. If Rodgers, can be reasonable and functional. But yeah, so it's a great fit. Exactly what he needed to do. Second highest zone percentage team behind only the Atlanta Falcons. So yeah, man, I think great fit for Caleb Johnson. He's going to be super productive.
Charles, what'd you think of this one?
Liked it. I liked it a lot. I don't think it's I wouldn't expect like this career from him, but when I watched him run, a lot of like the outside zone stuff looked like Arian Foster.
Yeah.
Just the way he glides, that's a bigger bag, maybe not the fastest guy, but he sees it, sets it up well.
Plants
and
it
hits
goes.
the holes. Right. So I like this fit for the Steelers, and if they can get Aaron Rodgers, they might have a little something on offense.
They might not be embarrassing.
They might not be embarrassing, right? Because
that line's gonna be good.
The line's gonna be
good.
And look, Aaron Rodgers is annoying as hell. Yeah. We can all say that,
Yeah.
but he actually did have some decent moments towards the end of last season, like where you're like, okay, I can squint and see maybe I want this guy back, or as my quarterback for next year. So
get him away from Hackett.
Yeah,
so he can't just control everything. And okay, all right, maybe he's gonna be a little bit more humble.
Well, they definitely don't boot as much play.
He ain't got a choice now.
Yeah, right. And Arthur's offense, they don't boot as much. They just straight drop back play action, which would be nice.
And he'll rip it. He'll still rip it. You got targets. I know. I'm talking myself into him, but I love this fit. This was
famous
one of my favorites.
Famous last words.
I know. I'm talking so much, but I just love this Johnson fit to the Steelers. I just love the line. So everything you said, Matt, agreed with this. Was one of my favorites as well. Charles, what was one of your favorite player and team fits?
I'm gonna keep it quick and simple. Darian Porter, cornerback from Iowa State.
Once it happened, it was like, duh.
Yeah. I mean, there's some picks where it's made, and I don't really even care how it turns out because I like the process.
Yeah.
Darian Porter, top of round 3, absolute alien in terms of athleticism, shows in the field. I think there's like real tangible upside for him to get better. And then he lands with one of the best like cornerback teachers of the past 2 decades of football, Pete Carroll. So it's a good fit. I think it's a clean fit. Obviously, the height, weight, speed, size fits what Pete's going for. So this is one of my favorite picks of the whole draft. Really.
Loved it. I like the Raiders class overall, and that was big reason for it. I'll give a couple of mine because I can't help myself. Agreed with those, but Michael Williams and 49ers. I know it's a first rounder. I wanted to get a little more creative than this, but yes, like this is exactly where he should go. This is exactly what they needed. It's the kind of right range for him as far as quote unquote value. But I think the upside and even what his baseline is makes sense for this year for the 49ers. Plus that you can get more out of him. Complements Nick Bosa perfectly. I've already talked about this at our recap of round 1 show, but this is one of my favorite fits the entire weekend. One I wanted to see too, so it was cool to see it actually happen. I'll go with another top 10 pick. That's Armin Membu to the Jets.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's go Jets offensive line. This is a lot of fun that what I think they can have, especially if they're healthy, especially the running backs they have in the room, especially with Justin Fields. We look forward to those 2-hour games in New York or at the Meadowlands. It's going to be great to get you guys out of there. If it's a Monday night game or Thursday night game that you guys always get, you'll be home by 11.
See, I might go back, I know,
right? Keep it on a clock. Maybe you get a nightcap after. No, but what I like most about this, there's some projection even for me. It was like Membu ended up getting the nod for me over Will Campbell, but they're right next to each other. Like them both. Okay, this is a true tackle prospect, but he's only played the right side. Okay, but now he goes to the Jets where he can stay on the right side with Olu Fashanu. Great bookend tackles there. Fired up about this player team fit. And you guys are just we got breaking news.
No, I actually just didn't want to. The Falcons just put out a statement saying that it was Jeff Ulbricht's son who called Shedeur Sanders.
In the statement, it says that Jeff Ulbricht's 21-year-old son unintentionally came across the draft contact phone number for Shedeur Sanders. Unintentionally.
We saw the video.
Yeah, how you accidentally come across that? Like, what are we talking about?
That was a nefarious laugh in that video.
Yeah.
Dropping the grade even more.
I mean, I think they got to be.
That's bush league stuff.
It is. Yeah. That's just amateur.
Man, you're 21. You know how much it would hurt to have your dream be right there on you.
And also, he's been around the business.
Yeah.
Like your dad's a coach. Like
Right.
how that goes. Like,
Yeah,
you're not
so
just some
the
random
Falcons
dude.
draft gets an F now.
Yeah. Bad weekend for the
Bad
Falcons.
weekend,
Bad
the
weekend.
ATL.
Unintentionally came across.
Oh, it's just bad.
Yeah, no,
Just
you were looking for it, kid.
That was a good way to cap it.
How'd you get that in there?
We're closing it out today. It was a heck of a weekend. Thank you guys for joining us today. Thank you for joining us Thursday, Friday, all the stuff, the recap show we had. Thank you actually for joining us for draft season. All the preview shows, the fantasy angles that you guys had, those shows. We had mock drafts throughout. We had player profile shows, articles, plenty of articles, big boards and stuff. You guys kick butt, of course. It was a pleasure doing it with you guys. Pleasure with doing everybody behind the scenes who is just making us look and sound good. Everyone here in LA was a lot of fun, but subscribe to us and stick with us throughout the off season. On Thursdays, we're kind of going to a once a week show. I should probably announce it too. I'm having baby number 2, or my wife is having baby number 2. Thank you. We're having a girl. But that will be in June. We'll have a little bit more announcements about the show scheduling to come. I'm Nate Tice. You can find me at Nate_Tice on Twitter, Nate Tice on Blue Sky. Matt, where can they find you?
Find me at Matt Harmon _BYB. Shout out to you guys. You did great work. It was awesome doing it with you guys this year.
So much fun. Charles, where are they going to find you?
For the next few weeks, you can find me nowhere.
Yeah.
You can find me on Blue Sky, Forwards. Yeah, I'm hoping to get away from y'all for a little bit.
Fair enough. No hurt feelings.
I'll have because I'm a sicko. I'll have a 2026 big board coming out sometime this week, and then you won't be hearing from me for a little bit. But mailbag, we'll probably definitely hit a mailbag question over this next month. Send those questions to football301mailbag at yahoosports.com. We had great questions today, great statements, comments today. You guys have been awesome when you've sent these in, so please send those in to football301mailbag at yahoosports.com, or leave us a 5-star review on Apple with your question below. There's somebody that has updated it like 3 times, and I'm going to get to each one of those updates, I promise. Subscribe to us, follow us, rate us those 5 stars. If you don't rate us 5 stars, just yell us online. Everyone else does it. Watch us on YouTube, on the Yahoo Sports YouTube channel. But again, shout out to this crew for working so hard. Yes. We have long hours. They have double those hours that we have to work, and we get to do the fun stuff and talk. One of our producers, Brad's right behind me, and he just had to stand here the entire time and listen to us. So, but shout out to these guys. They work so hard. Stone, Madison, Jason, Tommy, Phil, Jonathan, Ismail, and Brett. Thank you. You guys killed it. Yes. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.